Well, greetings, everyone. This is Samuel C. at Graph1159 on X. That's at GRAPH1159. And I'm continuing my video series on the Apostle Paul's epistle to the Romans. And this video will be looking at Romans chapter 12. But to understand chapter 12, I'm going to just quote the ending of chapter 11 again. Paul writes of God, seeing that out of him and through him and for him is all. To him be the glory for the eons. Amen. Now, with that in mind, chapter 12. I am entreating you, then, brethren, by the pities of God, to present your bodies a sacrifice, living, holy, well-pleasing to God, your logical divine service, and not to be configured to this eon, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, for you to be testing what is the will of God, good and well-pleasing and perfect. So the significance of the ending of chapter 11 is Paul stating that all is out of God. And so we are who we are because of God. And that's critical to understanding what Paul is saying here in the opening of chapter 12, what it means to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. And the question is, what are we pursuing and why are we pursuing it? Paul says not to be configured to this eon. So our life is not determined by what other people think is important, no matter how influential they may be. It's God who has determined everything about our lives. So our destiny is in his hands. Our future is in his hands. We don't have to worry about what other people think and what they say we need to do in order to be holy or in order to be successful. And so if whatever you have in life, whether it's your career, your hobbies, your relationships, if it's something that you are doing and you have peace, knowing that you have what you have because of God, and you're just living and making the next moves in what He's given you, then you're presenting yourself to God as a living sacrifice. On the other hand, if you're straining yourself to do something that's making you frustrated and agitated, and you're doing it because some influential person in this eon says that this is what we ought to be doing, then you're being configured to the eon, which is what Paul says not to be. Verse 3, for I am saying, through the grace which is given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to be overweening beyond what your disposition must be, but to be of a same disposition, as God parts to each the measure of faith. So Paul says not to be overweening. In other words, not to be thinking too highly of ourselves in and of ourselves. Because ultimately, again, we are who we are because of God. There's nothing inherently special about any one of us in and of ourselves. And so Paul wants us to remember that whatever amazing things we're able to do is because of God and not ourselves. Verse 4, for even as in one body we have many members, yet all the members have not the same function. Thus we who are many are one body in Christ, yet individually members of one another. Now, having graces excelling in accord with the grace which is given to us, whether prophecy, exercise it in accord with the analogy of the faith, or dispensing in the dispensation, or the teacher in teaching, or the entreater in entreaty, the sharer with generosity, the presider with diligence, the merciful one with glee. So, Paul wants for us to be at peace with each other, and you might, as a believer, there might be something that's really important to you, some aspect of what you're doing in life that's really important to you, and you're thinking, why aren't the other believers doing what I'm doing? Well, Paul just wants you to remember that whatever it is that you're doing is by the grace of God, and he hasn't given everybody the grace to do the same things that you're doing. And he wants us to be at peace with that. Verse 9, let love be unfeigned, abhorring that which is wicked, clinging to good. Let us have fond affection for one another, with brotherly fondness, in honor deeming one another first, in diligence, not slothful, fervent in spirit, slaving for the Lord, rejoicing in expectation, enduring affliction, persevering in prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints, pursuing hospitality. So Paul says to be abhorring that which is wicked and clinging to good. There are so many ways in which wicked things can look attractive. I mean, case in point, the doctrine of eternal conscious torment that is in the Christian church system. It's a wicked doctrine. I would say the most wicked doctrine, the most wicked religious doctrine to enter the human population. But yet, there are so many ways that you could think it's not a big deal because of the church services and the beautiful, inspiring music that we play. And I mean, I'm recording this video as we're approaching Christmas, and this is the big holiday of the Christian religion, and they've got all these beautiful lights and the nativity scenes and the music, and it all looks so glorious. But yet you've got this diabolical doctrine hiding in the religious system, and it is tempting to think, why is it really, do we need to be spending our time opposing the doctrine of eternal torment when look at how beautiful this religion is? Maybe it's not such a big deal. Well, it still is a big deal. And Paul says to be abhorring what is evil. And then with regards to worldly evils, the music industry, the movie industry, they have all these ways of making worldly evils look exciting and attractive. But again, Paul says don't fall for it. And he says to be clinging to what is good. The way that we don't fall for these traps, whether it's in the religious system or the world, the way that we don't fall for it is by clinging to what Paul is talking about in this epistle, all of the things that he spent 11 chapters detailing. This is how we do not let the attractiveness of either the religious system or the world system derail us. And then let us have fond affection for one another with brotherly fondness, in honor deeming one another first, in diligence not slothful, fervent in spirit, slaving for the Lord, rejoicing in expectation, enduring affliction, persevering in prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints, pursuing hospitality. What ultimately makes life meaningful is being able to help other believers. And now, of course, we have to have the means to help. And so, in many cases, we have a, a job that provides the means. But the fact that we can use the means that we earn to help other people, this is what gives meaning to all of the everything we have to go through in day-to-day life. And Paul wants us to be at peace with each other, to not think of ourselves as smarter than one another or wiser or one another, and thinking, why can't other people be as wise as I am? No, the meaning in life comes from knowing that we are who we are because of God, and using, well, what He's given us to help others. Verse 14, bless those who are persecuting you. Bless and do not curse, so as to be rejoicing with those rejoicing, lamenting with those lamenting, mutually disposed to one another. Okay, I have to admit that I am limited in this area when it comes to rejoicing with those rejoicing and lamenting with those lamenting. I can't necessarily bring myself to other people's extremes of highs and lows. Um, I mean, obviously, I care about other people and what they're going through, and of course, I'm happy if there's something they're happy about, and I'm sad if there's something they're sad about, but I can't. Um, I can't put myself in their level of exuberance or grief necessarily. But I understand that this is the way God made me, but I trust in Him that in a particular situation, I just leave it with Him how I express myself. I know what Paul exhorts me to do. I keep that in mind. And so, with this exhortation from Paul in mind, if I have to interact with somebody and I'm wondering, what am I going to say to them? How am I going to express myself? I just leave it with God and say, whatever happens, whatever I say to them, I'm leaving this with you so that I express myself in the way that I need to, in the way that you in the way that you want me to in this moment. And whatever happens, when I do the post-mortem on the experience, whether I think I expressed myself in an ideal way or not, I have at least have the peace of knowing I left it with God before I went into the situation. Verse 16, being mutually disposed to one another, not being disposed to that which is high, but being led away to the humble. Do not come to pass for prudent with yourselves. To no one render evil for evil, making ideal provision in the sight of all men, if possible, that which comes out from yourselves. Being at peace with all mankind, you are not avenging yourselves, beloved, but be giving place to his indignation. For it is written, mine is vengeance. I will repay, the Lord is saying. But if your enemy should be hungering, give him the morsel. If he should be thirsting, give him to drink. For in doing this, you will be heaping embers of fire on his head. Be not conquered with evil, but conquer evil with good. So, remembering what Paul was writing about earlier in this epistle, that in the flesh we cannot please God. The old humanity could not be justified. The old humanity could not be righteous. So that's why God took the old humanity to death with Christ and brought us into a new creation. And so, as a result, we're not straining to try to make the flesh do what's right. And even if we feel righteous indignation toward another person, well, if we're then getting ourselves stressed and anxious and trying to get revenge on that person and trying to get back at them, well, we're living in the flesh because we're straining to make the flesh do something against that person. But what Paul is saying is to instead, through the grace that God has given us, be nice to the people, even who are not nice to us. And that's what we can do. That attitude of kindness is what the Spirit gives us. That's our part. And as far as, bringing justice to the situation, we can leave that with God. And that's why Paul says, for it is written, mine is vengeance. That's God saying, mine is vengeance. I will repay, the Lord is saying. So we can just leave that with him. And this actually is a segue to chapter 13. And so I'll be bringing up this point again at the start of the next video. And I look forward to seeing you then when we talk about chapter 13.